Thank you for subscribing to our channel. Today is Friday, November 20th, 2020. Fox report. Instagram helps Vatican trace bikini model like that seemed to come from Pope. The Vatican and Facebook's Instagram are cooperating to trace the origins of a like on a bikini model's post that appeared to come from Pope Francis's official account. Social media users last week pointed out that the Pope's account, Franciscus, appeared to have given the sign of approval to a photo of Brazilian bikini model Natalia Garibaldo wearing a racy outfit. The Vatican said Francis himself wasn't responsible.
CNN report. Yes, people are still using 123,456 and password as their password. When it comes to updating passwords, we are creatures of habit, and change is hard. But it's 2020 and it may be time to beef up your security game because, according to new research, people are still using easy-to-hack passwords like 123,456,789, the word password, and I love you. Of the 200 worst passwords, 123,456 is the most commonly used of 2020, with 2,543, 285 people choosing it. It takes less than a second to crack, research from NordPass, a password management company shows.
Al Jazeera report. Lebanon. The forensic audit donors demand is dead. Who killed it? Beirut. Lebanon restructuring firm Alvarez and Marsal A&M has quit its contract to carry out a forensic audit of Lebanon's central bank, a key demand of international donors, because it did not receive the documents it needed. The country's caretaker finance minister Ghazi Wazni said on Friday Lebanon is seeking tens of billions of dollars in aid from donor nations and the International Monetary Fund (IMF) to help resolve a crushing financial crisis.
Al Jazeera report. Rich countries block COVID-19 drugs rights waiver at WTO. Wealthy nations on Friday reiterated their opposition to a proposal to waive intellectual property rules for COVID-19 drugs, three trade sources said, despite pressure to make an exception to improve access to drugs for poorer countries. Supporters of the waiver say existing intellectual property rules create barriers on access to affordable medicines and vaccines, and they want restrictions to be eased, as they were during the AIDS epidemic.
Fox report. NJ cannabis bill advances, but lawmakers differ on details. Trenton, N.J. New Jersey lawmakers advanced legislation setting up a new recreational marijuana marketplace, which voters overwhelmingly approved on the ballot this month, but differed on key details. The Assembly Appropriations Committee and the Senate Budget Committee passed legislation on Thursday, but the changes mean the two Democrat-led chambers will have to iron out their differences before going to a floor vote.
Fox report. Mexico tops 100,000 coronavirus deaths, fourth country to do so. Mexico City. Mexico passed the 100,000 mark in COVID-19 deaths, becoming only the fourth country to do so amid concerns about the lingering physical and psychological scars on survivors. José Luis Alomía Zagara, Mexico's director of epidemiology, announced late Thursday that Mexico had 100,104 confirmed COVID-19 deaths, behind only the United States, Brazil and India. The milestone comes less than a week after Mexico topped 1 million registered coronavirus cases, though officials agree the number is probably much higher because of low levels of testing.
Deutsche Welle report. Iran detains Panama tanker over alleged oil smuggling. 10 sailors were arrested after Iranian authorities detained an oil tanker on suspicion of oil smuggling, Deutsche Presseagentur reported on Friday, citing Iran's Farsi news agency. Members of Iran's Revolutionary Guard took control of a Panama-flagged vessel in the Persian Gulf, according to a Revolutionary Guard spokesman. The ship was allegedly transporting 300 tons of illegal oil. The detained crew members, described as foreign nationals, were delivered to the prosecutor's office in the port city of Parshan.
Deutsche Welle report. Coronavirus, COVID immunity lasts 6 months, new study shows. Individuals infected with the coronavirus are unlikely to catch it again for at least another 6 months, according to an Oxford University study published on Friday. We can be confident that, at least in the short term, most people who get COVID-19 won't get it again, said Professor David Eyre, one of the authors of the research. The news is an added boost to those hoping for a vaccine to be rolled out within weeks, as the coronavirus antibodies provided from the inoculation would appear to be strong enough to have a lasting effect.
CNN report. The global economic bailout is running at $19.5 trillion. It will go higher. Governments and central banks have promised to shell out $19.5 trillion since the coronavirus erupted to put a floor under the world economy, according to the International Monetary Fund. Some countries need even more help to recover from the crisis, but they might not get it. Governments have announced nearly $12 trillion in stimulus measures as of September, and central banks have chipped in at least $7.
Al Jazeera report. Donald Trump's revenge tour. U.S. can only watch and wait. White House Press Secretary Kayleigh McEnany hinted very strongly on Friday that one key reason for Donald Trump's post-election behavior is payback for those who wronged him throughout his presidency. In 2016, President Trump became the duly elected president. Many sought to undermine him, discredit him, delegitimize him and deny his victory, McEnany told reporters at the White House as she wrapped up a news conference.
BBC report. Attention-loving Trump disappears in final days of term. A U.S. Marine, wearing white gloves and a dark mask, guarded an entrance to the West Wing earlier this week. The president was in his workspace. Yet he was not involved in the kind of work that usually occupies presidents at this point in their term. 4 years ago, he was in the Oval Office getting advice from his predecessor Barack Obama. He was instead stewing about the election and watching TV, as his tweets have shown.
BBC report. Nicki Verstappen cold case killing ends in jail after 22 years. Josh Breck was found guilty by a court in the southern city of Maastricht of sexually abusing 11-year-old Nicki Verstappen and abducting him in acts that led to his death. But he was cleared of manslaughter, because of insufficient evidence. Nicki Verstappen disappeared from a tent in a summer camp in August 1998. His body was found in Woodland the next day, the 11th of August. The killing remained unsolved for 20 years, leaving the boy's parents Berthie and Peter Verstappen and his sister fighting for justice.
CNN report. Trump's history of undermining the law ends with assault on right to vote. President Donald Trump's 4-year history of undermining American rights and legal norms is fittingly ending with his attack on one of the most fundamental, the right to vote. The current attacks by Trump and fellow Republican leaders on valid election results, without any evidence, represent more than a flailing attempt to keep Trump in the White House. They amount to the ultimate disdain in a democracy.
CNN report. Don't ignore Trump's election mischief. Take it seriously. Until either President Donald Trump admits defeat and calls off his minions, or the GOP admits his defeat and acknowledges that Joe Biden is the president-elect, you've still got to hold your breath a little bit. A version of this story appeared in CNN's What Matters newsletter. To get it in your inbox, sign up for free here. That's the truth, even though last desperate gasps of the Trump era increasingly bear one striking similarity to its origin, it all seems like a hopeless joke.
BBC report. U.S. executes federal inmate for 1994 murder. Orlando Hall, 49, was one of 3 people the Trump administration is planning to execute before Joe Biden takes over as president in January. Mr. Biden has said he would work to end the federal death penalty, which had not been used in 17 years before Mr. Trump resumed them earlier this year. Hall was the 8th man to be put to death by federal officials this year. He was convicted of the kidnapping, rape, and murder of Lisa Renee, 16, whose brothers had been involved in a drug dispute with Hall and his 4 accomplices.
Deutsche Welle report. Belarus. Thousands attend funeral of killed protester Roman Bondarenka. Several thousand mourners paid their respects to opposition activist Roman Bondarenka at a church ceremony in Minsk on Friday, decrying the death of the 31-year-old professional soldier who they believe lost his life in an altercation with Belarus security forces. The attendants formed a half-kilometer (550 yards) line stretching from the church until the coffin was carried out. They occasionally chanted, "We will not forget, we will not forgive," and, "Rama, you are a hero."
Fox report. California adopts stricter workplace coronavirus safety rules. San Francisco, California officials on Thursday approved new regulations requiring employers to implement safety measures aimed at limiting the spread of COVID-19 in the workplace, becoming the latest state to adopt stricter rules. The state's Occupational Safety and Health Standards Board heard testimony on an emergency temporary standard that requires businesses to educate employees on ways to prevent infection, Provide free personal protective equipment and offer free COVID-19 testing to all employees if 3 or more employees are infected with the coronavirus within a 14-day period, among other measures.
Thank you for watching 5 p.m. recap. To be notified, you can subscribe our channel and activate the bell.